Yeah, let's
Okay,
get this let's
sure.
just get this show going. Hello everybody, welcome to Torn Tuesday. We are live on YouTube. I am your co-host Justin. That's Cliff Broadway up in the corner, and we are coming to you live from all corners of the country. Cliff, who else do we have on today?
Well, we are joined by our veteran, wonderful volunteer contributor, Kirsten, who is known as Green Dragon to the fandom. She's worked with us here at theonering.net forever and a day, but she hasn't aged a day because she has a magic portrait in her attic, absorbing her age, obviously. And we're so delighted to have Kirsten with us. And you, sir, Justin, always lovely to have you there, pushing the buttons behind the green curtain, making the wizard a wonderful whiz.
Sometimes
But
I
we are.
press the wrong button, but
I wouldn't. I wouldn't admit that out loud. But we are here live on a live stream show at the usual time, 5 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday for the OneRing.net weekly show. But we're joined by a very special guest and artist who's been making some remarkable waves in the Tolkien community with his stained glass and his work with what you'd call, I don't want to call them window treatments, but I want to call them something like better than that. There's something magical happening at Geek Orthodox, and we have with us none other than Ian. May I pronounce your name incorrectly? Lieno.
Please and pronounce it incorrectly. I am very accustomed to it. It's an odd last name. I have heard all pronunciations. The one that we have used in my family is Lino. Um,
Lino.
but
Very good.
my first year in high school, you went to different classes. So you had like 7, 8 different teachers. And between my first and last name, Ian Lino, every one of my teachers pronounced it wrong in a different way. So that's fine.
Okay. Ian Lino, welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome aboard, good
thanks.
sir. It is great to have you. I behold the artistic studio that is right there behind you. This is where the magic happens.
Magic actually starts right here. Despite the mess, there's something that happens there.
wait,
I
can you
wouldn't have
walk
it.
us through that? Because I thought draft boards and pen and ink were 20th century relics.
Oh
Like,
gosh.
don't you
Oh
design
gosh.
everything on an iPad and you're screen only?
For those who have not seen me so much in person, note the gray and the beard. I I am a 20th century relic. Um, no, I've always enjoyed starting with paper and pencil. At some point, most everything goes into the computer. But I've just always felt a freedom to have just pencil and paper. Um, there's there's something about that textural feeling and the ability to, like, I don't know, take it everywhere, and that's just what I've grown up with. And so, yeah, all my designs at some point start with, you know, here's sketches for all sorts of stuff
Oh, lovely.
from this campaign and the last one and maybe next stuff. Um, yeah, this is one of my actual proudest things. We found this, used it from what I was told when I picked this drafts table up. It was actually used in CBS studios back in the 60s. Um, so
Oh,
I'm I'm
cool.
I'm I'm carrying that story forward, whether it is true or not. I feel, buoyed by the artists that have come before me. So that's
So
I dig it.
are you using old school razor blades and X-Acto knives and stuff when
no,
you're cutting stained
no,
glass?
no. Yeah, so I'm not getting into Ruby Lith and masking and all that kind of stuff. I do use actual computers, the rocks that we put lightning inside of that do our work for
Okay,
us.
I'm not
Um,
crazy then.
no, no. Yeah, that is the way I start because that works for me. And then depending on the design, some things start from very loose sketches and I develop those digitally. Other things I get through much further in an analog fashion, and then bring it to the computer and clean it up and do all the things that allows us to do so well. So yeah, kind of a hand in glove sort of thing.
It's incredibly clean. I wouldn't complain about the status of cleanliness in your studio. You should see Colleen Doran's drafting table, where she draws all these amazing graphic novels and Tolkien illustrations. Multiple Eisner Award winner Colleen Doran. But having that is one of the cleanest and most orderly artists' drafting tables I've seen in many an age. It's lovely.
Well, I think we should. Yeah, I think
Go
we should stop bearing the lead here. Like you've got a brand new product to debut, and let me just bring it up on screen here. This incredible stained glass waterfall.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't it beautiful, Cliff?
That is so lovely. It's one of my favorite things. I tell you what, when I'm not telling on myself, but maybe I am. But when I go to the county fair, LA County Fair, at the fairgrounds, there's millions and millions of things to do. There's rides, attractions. There are people who win blue ribbons for peach cobbler. There are people who win blue ribbons for tablescaping. You name it, all kinds of stuff. But I lose myself at the glass blowers. I go to that where they have the heating, the massive furnace, and these craftspeople are showing us in real life how they heat the glass, make the elements work, combine chemistry. It's like a chemistry class as well as an artisan's class. And they show us the incredible difficulty that it takes for hand-blown glass and leading to stained glass elements that they use in their art. And I could sit there mesmerized, hypnotized by the process for hours on end. And when I see this type of work, I immediately am struck by the beauty. At the same time, I'm just astonished at the man hours and the difficulty in the labor that it takes to make stained glass elements like this. It's amazing.
Thank you. I very much enjoy the process, which is good because it is a slow one. So you have to enjoy not just the end result, but also the effort that it takes to get there. I've done some courses, and there's a fine art craft school around here that does specialty courses, and the stained glass studio shares space with the hot glass studio, and it's stunning and terrifying. You wander over to the hot glass, and about every 3 feet there's dump buckets and chemical washes and blankets and all the things that people might need for the dangerous work that they're doing. And then I go back and retreat to the safety of the stained glass studio, where there's Band-Aids and a little bit of balm for when you burn yourself with the solder.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Puts it in perspective.
It sure does.
I may bleed on every piece that I do, but there's much less danger of losing digits.
Yeah. Ian, real quick, hold your hand up to the camera so we get a focus on you. Your camera wouldn't have a focus real quick.
That's just what I look like.
You know what? Ian, you are the opposite of AI. You are the real deal. This is where the man just said out loud, there might be, some drops of blood that I'll shed from my artwork. And I'm thinking it's just the complete opposite of this horrifying AI wave that is, the bubble has yet to burst, but the bubble is growing. And this is why I'm so pleased
everybody
to talk with you.
Cliff mentioned AI before me on today's show. Yeah. I want to mark the time at 5:12.
Of course. Also mark that there was a spirit of condemnation and complete disdain in my voice. Also note that on the record as well. And unlike the way that you mention it, Justin, but Ian, I want to congratulate you on that grassroots, homegrown, original, organic quality of your craft and your artistry. I just want to congratulate that. Whatever else happens, you deserve this great license that you have, getting this great things done for Lord of the Rings stories and places and characters. You deserve it very much. I'm just thrilled. Thrilled to have you here.
We're going to show you some where people might have seen this earlier this year. But before we get there, there's questions in the chat. Ian, what are we looking at on this? Is this a waterfall of Imladris? I don't know what the chat room is talking about right now.
Sure. So this piece I titled "Leaving Him Lodges," and it's as they're going across the bridge, to go on their adventures. Um, and so I really wanted to have that moment that is the beginning of the fellowship binding together and the last moments of ease before they go through the turmoil of what's about to come. So I like to think of that as, they're still down in the valley. It's December. Once they get up above that, they're going to be facing the weather and all these other things. This is that just like that last moment of peace.
Now,
Hmm.
there's been some debate in my head. Is Bill the Pony part of the fellowship?
Honorary.
Sure.
He's the honorary 10th member. Yeah.
Sure. So it's like, is Serenity, the ship, part of the crew? Like, like
Yes.
is the means of transportation part of the journey?
Great analogy. Great.
I,
That's great.
I, I'm not going to come down on one side or the other, but I would have been remiss not to have Bill in this shot. I felt.
I like that Bill is right in the middle there. That's great.
Yeah.
Great. So Ian, this piece is stained glass, and you also make your stained glass pieces that people can buy them as like the window cling pieces as well. Is that right?
Yes. So this is, we did a Shire collection last year, and we had a couple of large pieces and a couple of small stained glass pieces. And then we do window clings, which have the look of stained glass, but just go onto any window. And so we'd like to offer kind of a range of products so that anyone can have this look and make that more accessible to anyone. This original piece is, starts from sheets of glass. Use a little glass cutting tool like your dad or granddad probably had in a toolbox. And you score a line and then you break the glass. And if everything goes according to plan, it breaks on that weakened line that you just made.
Hmm.
Many times the glass has other ideas. And so, it's a collaborative partner in the process, and you don't always, see eye to eye. And so for these original pieces, we choose glass sheets and even the pieces within that have the movement that we're looking for. So, for instance, the waterfall. So you have, a sheet that has movement because as you've seen that glass blowing done, for a lot of stained glass, it starts that way. They'll blow out and they'll blow a cylinder and then cut the ends and flatten it out to make sheets. And so not all stained glass is made that way, but some is. And because of that, it's not uniform. It's not like going to the paint store and saying, I want this, 2% more blue. You get what the artists have made. They've made the things to work from. And so for this one, we do that to get that movement and that energy, and the kind of dynamic nature of the piece.
So with a piece like this, I'm just
Mhm.
because when you were talking before, when Justin said, "Do you use your X-Acto knife or whatever?" With the actual glass piece that we're looking at, if people buy it, are they all different? Like, is each one slightly different because of what you're talking about with working with glass? And
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the beautiful things about stained glass is even if you remake the same piece, however many times, no two are exactly alike because each one uses pieces of a sheet of glass that is not infinitely variable, but quite variable across it. And so you have different motion, different highlights and shadows. And so even pieces that are, made along the same pattern are unique pieces and no two are the same.
it's so cool. By the way, as just a side story, when you were talking about scoring and then getting the glass to break, I recently was down on the Cape with some friends, and one of my friends that I was staying with, he does stained glass work himself, just for a hobby. He doesn't sell it or anything, but he has a little studio in his home. And we went to this winery on the Cape, and they also make their own rum and things, and gin, and I bought a bottle of their rum. And
These
when I
sound like
got
my
it
type of
back,
people.
yeah, exactly. Like the good Syzygy Forge folks, as
Right.
Middle Earth Enterprises licensees. But anyway, I got the bottle of rum back to my friend's house, and I thought, this feels a little damp. And I noticed that in the last third of the bottle, it had just sheared. The glass had just completely, and it hadn't actually come apart. It was just very slowly leaking out. So I turned it upside down so that the liquid would run into the neck, so that bottom bit of the bottle didn't have liquid in it. And then I said to my friend, look at this. And he went, and the piece just came off. So I took it back to the winery, and I was like, and they said, oh, we had a whole, because I thought, yeah, you've seen this before, haven't you? And they said, oh, we had a whole load of bottles with a weakness that came from the bottle maker with a weakness. But my
Oh.
friend was like, do you know how hard it is to get glass to just break cleanly like that? It was extraordinary. It just like came off as if it had been like a knife through butter. It was amazing.
Yeah, how much time does it take to what's the word? Assemble, create, blow? I don't even know what language you
Yeah.
use.
Sure. So there's a lot of different steps in the process. So first off, the design, coming up with the design and the layout for all the pieces, and then selecting your glass and your colors. And so once those are done, then it's cutting each one. They never cut to exactly the right shape, so you have like a little grinder to make them the right shapes. There are a couple of different ways that stained glass is made. Don't let me get too deep in the weeds here, so pull me up if I go too deep. Traditional like European stained glass uses lead cane. It kind of looks like a little eye, and comes in long strips. And then you put two pieces of glass, and then that kind of sandwiches them together. Tiffany glass, a lot of people have heard of Louis Tiffany, created a method that uses a copper foil. So it's like a tape, and you wrap the edge of each piece with that tape. And then when you put them together, you can solder all of that. And so it ends up with a much smaller line between artwork and a much more flexible line. And so in traditional like cathedral glass, it's larger pieces and a lot of painting. In that Tiffany style, it's usually smaller pieces and they're more figured. So you get more detail from the line work there. This piece uses a combination of those techniques. So all of the central panel is done with that Tiffany style. So you can see it's very thin lines. And then the border we use the lead cane for, which is a heavier, gives it a little bit more of a structure, I think.
Okay.
Is the silhouette of all the fellowship characters a separate piece of metal? In other words, are you working in two disciplines, both glasswork and metallurgy?
Yes and no. Yes, it is a separate piece. And I do not create that myself. I created the design for that, and I am working with a studio that does like 3D, like laser cut metal, who specializes in the metalwork there.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
And
I
did you tell us how
yeah.
you designed that particular fellowship? Because I know that's a fun story.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite stories from this. I don't have pictures together, but I can post them later. For this, I wanted to have like real life imbued in it, and so instead of working from photos or something like that, I actually modeled for every one of these characters. My wife and I have done cosplay for years at conventions, and so we have a decent costume closet. So I pilfered that and wore a robe for
Well, that's quite a
Gandalf.
barrel
And
chest you got there then. That's you got some.
there's so I did that. I have photos of myself in all of these things. Boromir, I had a large pot lid for a shield. You work with what you've got. And so I took those and then took them into Photoshop and adjusted all of the proportions. So there are now photos of me that are Hobbit proportioned. and elf proportion, all these sorts of things, and I use those as the basis to draft the characters. So I'm in each one of them, which I find fun and enjoyable. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to do. That was one of my most fun days in the studio, was kind of going through and finding costumes and putting it together and coming up with those characters.
When I see TikTok videos of like people soldering stained glass, you know, they got like a soldering iron and a little you know, and they're doing the thing. That's the Tiffany way of doing things.
Yeah, that's yeah, for those of you solder the entire joint between the two pieces with that lead cane, it's rigid on its own, and so you cut it into pieces and you really just tack it where those come together.
Can I just do a quick shout out for John Lafarge, who was also creating glass techniques at the same time as Tiffany? And
Yes.
I actually, here in Boston, where I am at the moment, I volunteer as a tour guide at Trinity Church in Copley Square, and John Lafarge was the design interior art there, but he also made quite a lot of the windows there. And he and Tiffany were big rivals, and glass artists debate, or glass art historians debate, which of them came up with the techniques first, and at one point each was considering suing the other for, you know, stealing their techniques. So Tiffany is by far the more famous, by far, but I just have to do a little shout out for John Lafarge there.
Yes, thank you. Not to slight him at all. I just don't want to get too complex with all background.
That's incredibly cool. No, I love learning more about this. I really do. But when do you sit down from drawing designs, and when do you get to a point and say, I have evolved this design enough. I'm ready to now move from just the sketching and the designing to the real practical construction and deciding what elements and colors. How long does that process usually take you?
Usually until the deadline approaches.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. I think
you
we've
know,
all felt that.
Yeah, I mean that's always the challenge of creative work is Spielberg, I think one of my favorite quotes is like, no project is ever done, you just run out of time or money. And so like,
yeah, and that's George Lucas's problem, isn't it? Right? Somebody gave too much time and money to go back and mess with.
Yeah.
Right. So it's you know, left to our own devices, we'll always find ways to keep, you know, picking here and poking there, and it's a challenge to not do that, because it feels like anything can always be improved. But at a certain point, it's just time to move on. And you know, our job as creatives is not to make perfect things, it is just to make things. And so the more things that we make, the more that there is, and the more that we are on some path to, not perfection, because that feels unattainable, but to improvement. And so, you know, by doing more work, you learn better how to do other work. And so, you know, this series of designs really pushed me creatively, which means that there was swearing involved. You know,
I bet for that.
Yeah. I you know, the design I ended up with for the Rivendell house, I went through full rendering. I was on all of this sort of stuff a couple of times. You know, okay, this is great. You get done, you're like, I don't really like that after all. Having the freedom to be able to go back and get it closer to what I want was great. But yeah, at the end of the day, sometimes you just have to move on, and do the best work that you can, and then move on and do the best thing you can on the next piece.
We got some questions from the chat. Number one, who was the model for Bill the Pony?
Okay, so that was not me in two halves of
Look, it's
a pony suit.
okay.
I'm sorry to
we're all friends.
disappoint.
Okay.
I would
Next,
love to see you in the pantomime costume, Ian. That would be fun, though.
Sorry to disappoint.
in
Huh?
in universe, where do you think this piece would be installed? Would it be in a home in the Shire? Would it be in Bree? Where does this piece belong?
That's a great question. Yeah, some pieces I think have particular ties to locations. This one maybe has a little bit more freedom. I feel like it would be important to those people who were part of this scene as a memory. You know, most things look good in Bag End. That's just that's just going to be true, because it is, you know, as well as the origin of these stories. It also feels like not a museum, but a collector of the artifacts. You know, when you think of, you know, Bilbo and Frodo thinking back through these tales, that's where those treasures and those memories are stored again. So I think it could certainly go there.
I could see it in Gondor. I could see the king, King Elisar, you know, choosing to honor the fellowship by installing some stained glass in you know, some
Oh, yeah.
magnificent building in the White City, or you know.
Vigo would definitely center Bill the Pony.
Yeah,
And
he would.
it's the unsung hero, you know, the one that carries the burden. Like, I think that's important.
Now, we had.
Similar question, real quick, but Cliff, where, if your workshop of stained glass was in Middle Earth, where would your business be? Would it be in Minas Tirith? Would it be in Rohan? Where would you set up shop?
Yeah. I
Or
think,
maybe you have other licenses and you're in a whole different universe.
you know, you can have houses all over the world. That's fine. You know, I think Minas Tirith probably would be the place. I would not want to get shown up by artisans that have had millennia to hone their craft. You know, I enjoy my work. You try not to compare yourself to other artists, but it's difficult to do. So no matter how good you can get in a human lifespan, you're never going to scratch what is available through centuries of dedication to a craft. So just for my own small but fragile ego, I think I would need to be in a human place.
So not Eregion then. We're not not going there.
Wow. Now, the idea is because I've seen so many of your, excuse me, the beautiful window clings are an affordable alternative for people who love to have this beautiful, illustrious color coming through their windows, but they can't afford or, even have transported a massive stained glass piece, which is a completely different price point. But this summer, we had such a great experience at San Diego Comic-Con with inquisitive people and Tolkien fans coming to our table, and they were delighted with the window decals that you had. But I noticed that everything is beautiful, fair, light, naturalistic, and appealing. You seem to have, and maybe I'm wrong, but you seem to have avoided dark, evil, disturbing imagery. Is it because stained glass naturally lends itself more to things that are fair and high and beautiful instead of things that are dark and turgid and violent? I can't imagine a stained glass image of massive armies of orcs moving across the plateau of Gorgoroth. I just can't imagine. I mean, but tell me about your instincts, Ian. I'm curious about that.
Sure. You know, as a medium, stained glass is used for powerful messages. It's used for important messages. You know, it was used in the church for centuries when the sermons were in Latin and the people did not speak Latin and they had no idea what was being said, but they could look at the powerful images in the window and that's what told those stories. And so it's, from my experience, it's largely used in ways that feel reverent or important or large ideals. And so there are certainly some stained glass of challenges and difficulties and atrocities and things like that. We use it for memorials and museums and these sorts of things as well. For my purposes, when I started doing artwork for Middle Earth, there's so many ways to start. There's so many ways to partition and to come in and different axes to come across. It's a huge world and so much to do. And so I started where the story started. And so the first collection I did was in the Shire. And that's a naturally light and, effervescent sort of place. And so it lent itself to that and to that naturalistic look. Flowing from there, I'm now working in Rivendell, just to move through the Lord of the Rings book. That's not to say that I don't plan to do some darker work. I think there are great images that can be done there as well. And so I'm looking forward to, we've done Sting in the Ring. Narsil is in the new collection. I think a Morgul blade is going to look really cool next to those.
Yeah.
And as in so many things, the light is bright because of the darkness. And so having that juxtaposition, I think, makes both of them more compelling. So it's not that I'm shying away from it. It's just that I am working toward that and how to kind of bring those elements together.
Indeed. Well, I'm thinking of popular religious imagery. Those amazing images from Paradise Lost, images of Lucifer being cast down, and this iconography in stained glass has appeared from time to time to show the dichotomy of good versus evil, with one of the archangels bringing a spear down onto Lucifer, bearing down on him, things like that. And I'm suddenly thinking of the lady Eowyn as Durnhelm on the field, and she is that light against a darkness of the Witch King standing against her. I can see that stained glass, perhaps in my own personal sensibilities, is most appropriate for a tableau that tells a story. Just, circling back around to what you have just said before. And also, there's some images in Tolkien's storytelling, especially in The War of the Ring, which actually achieve that status of religiosity, almost, if you know what I'm getting at.
Absolutely. And that's, it's one of the things that interests me very much. The company that I have is called Geek Orthodox, and it's because I think there is a lot of overlap between fandom and faith. I think, both of them do have archetypal characters, and these grand stories and, these aspirational figures that want us to be better. And I think I'm not obviously not getting into Tolkien's, religious views or anything else, but there's no way to make these stories or many other stories in our popular culture that don't have those same types of figures and character arcs and conflicts. And so I find that fascinating.
Indeed.
Stained glass has an interesting history, and if you guys ever wanted to go down a rabbit hole, start looking at the history of stained glass, because during the Reformation, stained glass was mostly destroyed across Europe. When the Christian Reformation was happening, they considered stained glass, idolatry. They considered heathen artwork, and I believe Protestants revolting against the Roman Catholic Church kind of didn't want anything to do with stained glass for a couple hundred years. So most of
Because it
the
was seen as like emotional and powerful and compelling. And yeah, if you're really trying to keep things, on the level, you don't want that high emotion that type of powerful artwork brings. Yeah.
Well, here's a fun fact. In Durham Cathedral in the northeast of England during the Reformation, the worst destruction of stained glass was in England, and that was mostly not actually so much about religion as about Henry VIII wanting the money that the monasteries and the cathedrals and such had, and he was like, "Yeah,
Oh,
now's my chance." But in Durham Cathedral, knights of Henry's showed up during the Reformation and destroyed things. And in sometime in the 20th century, somewhere in the mid 20th century, pieces of a broken pre-Reformation stained glass window were found that had been buried. So the monks, after the knights had been there and had destroyed things in the cathedral, had buried shards, pieces of the broken medieval stained glass to kind of honor it, and they had buried it, and then it had been lost, and sometime in the 20th century it was found again, and there is now a stained glass window in Durham Cathedral which is made up of a mosaic of these broken pieces of the pre-Reformation window. And
wow.
this is nothing to
Wow.
do with stained glass, but in connection with that there was a rood screen, so the screen that was between the general public, hoi polloi, and the altar. Most churches had a rood screen, and the rood screen at Durham Cathedral is still there, but it had figures of saints in it. And when the monks knew that the knights were on their way, they took out the statues of the saints and hid and buried those so they wouldn't be destroyed. And they've never been found again.
Oh,
So
wow.
I hope that one of these days somebody is going to be digging around and go like, wait a minute, what's this? And
Oh,
rediscover
wow.
that.
I love that story, Kirsten. I love that. That's
I mean,
fascinating.
let's be honest. Stained glass is probably the most religious, themed artwork category. I don't know what the word is, but there's
Subgenre.
but there's paintings of everything, and there's photographs of everything, and there's tapestries of anything. There's tapestries of unicorns, right? But when people think of stained glass, you immediately go into the church. So is your work at Geek Orthodox kind of informed by any of that? Like, are you reaching for a higher inspiration, or is this just artwork, your method to express yourself?
Sure. So I think people have enjoyed the look of stained glass for so long, but do often associate it with, ecclesiastical things, or, museum, like that type of very high sort of usage, because that's who could afford it. You didn't
Ah.
see a lot of this in, peasant homes. It was in the cathedrals, it was in the castles, it was in the homes of people that had the money to hire somebody to spend hundreds of hours making these these pieces.
Hmm.
And so it became associated with the things that were important to those people that had the money. And I really wanted to bring it to bear to things that I thought were important and that were worthy of consideration. Um, in the same way that those were places of people joining together and having a commonality. Like, I think a lot of our pop culture is that same sort of thing. It's how we find community. It's how we find people that are like us and have the same values we do. And it gives us the same sort of shorthand to say, I don't have to describe this, that. I can say, Thor, this, here, we can talk about, Doctor Who, and then go on. And you know what I mean by that character. I don't have to describe everything about them. And so I think our characters that we're making function in that same way as a lot of these other sorts of figures, to give us something to rally around, to talk about, to discuss the human condition, to talk about our similarities and our differences and how we think about larger ideas.
Mm. What I appreciate the most is that such a high art, and I mean that in the terms of effort, design, and in terms of artistic reach, such a such a beautiful and exquisite high end of art form is yet also so fragile. At the same time, there's an interesting Venn diagram between how fragile and temporal it is. If we're having a conversation about temporality, we're eventually going to end up moving from, Christian ideology to Buddhist ideology, which is very much centered on impermanence and on temporality and human lifespan and our place in the cosmos as well. But I'm so fascinated by something that can stand within the walls of a beautiful church, a beautiful cathedral or museum, and be there for hundreds of years, and yet still be one of the most fragile things on earth. And yet it has achieved a strange illusion of permanence when it's really not. When it's really not. That's endlessly fascinating to me. It really is. Because stained glass is kind of like the opposite of stonework and masonry. Masonry is going to stand there as long as the pyramids, that kind of stonework. But stained glass, that's the trick. That's the real trick.
Is it,
I'm just,
Cliff, though? We just
isn't it though?
got done talking about stained glass before the Reformation that you can see right now.
Hmm.
I think your thesis is incorrect. But
Throw one rock, one hobbit who's got excellent aim, one
oh,
hobbit with
throw
one well-placed rock.
cannonball at some masonry. I can break down
No, no,
anything you
no.
want.
I mean,
Like,
well, do you know what? The point is that masonry is nowhere near as fragile as stained glass. That's the point. And yet, stained glass and the discipline and the higher discipline of the art form is fascinating to me and always has been because it kind of challenges our notion of permanence and impermanence. I don't know, Ian. Maybe I'm way, way, way off somewhere in
don't put this
like
on him.
art
This is
theory.
your
No,
thesis.
I
no,
am
sure.
way off in the land of art theory right now. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, but I'm curious what
No,
you
like,
think.
sure. I mean, at the end of the day, everything is passing, and
Yes.
so
Yes.
in whatever way, nothing is going to last forever. And it is very interesting that something, can be so long-lived if cared for, and so quickly shattered if it's not.
Hmm.
And I think it speaks a lot to care and importance and what we put value in and how that keeps things going forward. And so as long as something is important, it's cared for and it can last. And as soon as it's not, then an errant stone takes it out. Mud from a boot gets on a painting. Things are so fragile. And so,
Mm.
it speaks a lot to the importance that we put into that, to keep it around. I will say, seeing stained glass like in movies or TV shows or that sort of thing is it's always fun to see. But you do know if there's a featured piece, it's like Chekhov's gun. If there's a gun, it has to go off in the third act.
Yep.
If you see a beautiful stained glass piece, especially something large, it's going to get broken and it hurts every single time. If there's a small window in the back in a washroom or something, that one's fine. But if it's the featured piece that's in the front door of a house,
Yeah.
there's no chance. It's gone already. Just get goodbye now. So
This
that hurts
is
every time.
I'm fascinated by it so much. I'm thinking about some of my family members are currently on a little European jaunt, and my sister is running around Greece. She was just in Paris a few months ago, and I'm thinking about the difficulty in the repairs they're doing at the Notre Dame Cathedral, which suffered that devastating fire. I'm amazed how quickly they've put that amazing landmark back together. And I'm even more fascinated at the curative and restorative efforts that they had to do for the famous stained glass pieces in that church. And I'm gonna go there. I'm so interested. I'm gonna go and see how they changed it, what they improved, or some controversy about some
Sure.
of the changes they've made in the cathedral.
Of course.
But I'm just fascinated by that, really am. And
Well,
that's why it's so delightful to have you here to pick your brain and to talk about all these details. All right, next question. What is one of the most challenging designs you have set yourself, from paper to process to completed stained glass? I'm curious. What was one of the hardest ones you made?
Um, yeah, a number of the ones in this collection were challenging in different reasons. Actually, the waterfall was challenging because it needed simplicity.
Hmm.
Earlier versions of that were much more complicated, and to have nuance and subtlety and all this sort of stuff, but it muddied the story, and it lost focus from the most important parts. And so actually going back and refining that took a lot of work to strip things away. It feels much more like poetry than prose, that one particularly, because I couldn't have errant strokes. One of the things with it is because lead is opaque and glass is not, you will always have a black line when it's illuminated.
Hmm.
And coming down through the party and through the bridge, I didn't want to see any lines from the background. And so all of those lines are hidden behind the characters. And so instead of it, bisecting through through a head, through a leg, coming out, all of those lines had to be addressed in a way that they felt organic and wouldn't detract from the impact of those silhouettes. So that was a challenge in a very different way.
Hmm. Hmm. Indeed.
I want to talk a
Um,
little bit about the conventions that we've seen it at, because everyone's looking at this photo now. Let me bring it up full screen here. But people that were at Comic-Con this year saw it in person. This is the Middle Earth booth, and there it is right at the back, on full display. In fact, this was installed in as a window in the Middle Earth booth before it was even for sale. Uh,
People went nuts for it. And I'm telling you, people really went nuts for it. They loved it. They really did. You should be so proud of that, Ian. I don't know how
I
many people have told you yet, but the fans were going nuts for it. They loved it.
I am amazingly proud of that. It was such an incredible experience. Talking with John at Middle Earth when he, pitched me this idea and showed me their, mock-ups for the booth, and that it was built up at scale so that everyone felt like hobbits when they went in, that it was at like 1.5 scale.
Yeah, it
He's
was
like,
so great.
and he's like, and here's your art in the windows. And I'm like, what? What's happening? What's going on? So it was such an amazing honor to have my work featured in that way, and to feel like it was not just about that universe, but now part of that universe. Just a staggering thing. I very much regret that I was not able to go out there and see it in person. Hopefully, I will be able to this next year.
But Kirsten, you saw these in some of these Geek Orthodox things in person at a couple East Coast conventions, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's been a fun year, kind of trading back and forth from conventions, right? So we at our booth in San Diego, I wasn't there in San Diego, that was your work, Justin, but we were able to feature Geek Orthodox products and Ian's products, and then at New York Comic Con, Ian, at your Geek Orthodox booth, you were able to feature one of our shirts. So it's a collaborative effort this year, and I 2 years running now have got to see your booth in New York and see all of the beautiful window pieces and the art and the way you display them on light boxes. And yeah, it's really fun to see that, and it's been fun developing these collaborations. I want to ask you, Ian, how did you first get connected with Middle Earth Enterprises? Did you approach them to see about becoming licensed, or how did that connection, how did they first become aware of you and your work, and how did it come about that they said, yeah, we'll license your work?
It's a great question. That's great.
Sure. So I've been an artist since I was born. I've made a living at it for most of those years, and I've done graphic design, all these sorts of things. But as an independent artist, it's almost impossible to get noticed by, global corporations. And I really wanted to pursue official licensing. We had, I thought, a very different sort of product and a different sort of style than anything else that was on the market. And so I had been trying to connect with anybody that would listen for quite a while. And as it turned out, nobody would. And so there is a licensing convention in Las Vegas, and tons of big companies go there. Lots of them have booths. Other people are walking the show. And so I was like, well, here's all of these people in one place. I'm just going to go there, and then they will have to talk to me. As it turns out, I was wrong about that as well, because they are there to talk to the other large companies who are there and make
Oh,
global deals for brand positioning and these very large things. And so I brought samples, I had a presentation, and left those at a number of places that I was interested in working with. And as I was trying to set up meetings ahead of time, I noticed that Middle Earth was not there as exhibitors, but they were sending a group of people as attendees, to go and see who else was at the show and what type of products were being pitched and all that sort of thing. And so I reached out to them before and said, I have loved Middle Earth since before I could read and had the books read to me. I'm an artist. Here's what I do. I would love to just get together for a few minutes, at a cocktail table somewhere and show you what I'm doing. And they agreed to that. And, I showed them my presentation of the type of work that I did, talked to them about my love for this world, these characters, these stories, and gave them ideas for how I would like to partner up. And amazingly, they saw the vision for that and found it compelling. And, we kept the conversation going from there. And over probably about the next 6 or 8 months, contracts and, all the businessy sort of thing, we worked through and were able to get an agreement going. But it really came down to the fact that most other places I talked to were very much looking for, what is your product? How many units can you make? How many can you sell? How can we, this sort of thing. And the impression that I got from the Middle Earth team, and that still holds true, is their largest consideration in talking to me was, what can we do for the fans? And it really turned it around. They were not looking to, exploit markets and, drive up, they're just like, this is really neat. Our fans have never had the opportunity to have something like this before, and we would like to make that happen for them. And so by it being based in art and in that shared knowledge of this world, that's why they were open to working with an individual creator like me. And they've been fantastic every day since.
It's really great to hear that, because I think sometimes it's easy for us at the One Ring. We have a long standing connection with Middle Earth Enterprises, although it's only in more recent years that we've actually become licensees ourselves, but we've had a strong connection with them since the beginning of the One Ring, really, since the early days of the fandom with regard to PJ's movies. And so if we talk about how the folks at Middle Earth really care about Tolkien and all, it kind of sounds like that it's an official mouthpiece line, so it's really good to hear it from someone else that and I hope it will continue to be the way, knowing the people at Middle Earth. I think it will, but you never know how corporate things change. But it's really nice how Middle Earth have been about the fandom. They are people who love Tolkien and they love the fandom, and they want to provide opportunities for artists to do cool things within the realm of Middle Earth. So it's good to hear it from you without it just sounding like that's us towing a party line kind of thing.
I've been curious, because we've all been to Comic Cons all of our lives, right? And art of expression, freedom of expression includes artwork, and we've seen, unlicensed art at conventions and stuff like that. As the One Ring wasn't licensed for so many years because we're just fans, right? We're all just fans. So, have you seen a difference in, I don't know, the way fans look at Geek Orthodox when you're coming to these conventions as licensed and official and everything versus, like, the booth 5 doors down that, you can tell is just a guy, you know?
Yeah, I don't know how important that is to a lot of fans. I think as someone who loves a thing, you just want to see it represented in a way that is compelling to you. I think it I think it can give a sense of, and it's an official stamp of approval. This is officially recognized. People whose job it is to be stewards of Middle Earth have said, yes, this follows, the vision that we have for this world, and we believe that this is a good representation of these things. And so that's important to me, and it's important to some people, absolutely. And I think some people just like things that are pretty. And hopefully I'm still appealing to both of those things, because at
Oh
the end of
yes,
the
no
day,
fear of that. Yes,
I
yes.
I am a fan, and this is born out of fandom. This is, my interpretations of things that I have loved for decades. And in working with Middle Earth Enterprises, it's very much the feeling I get from them too, is that, they're fans as well. And so um, I think sometimes it can go the other way, and that some officially licensed things can feel a little flat when it is, these are stock assets, and here's the photo of this, and here's
Yeah,
that, and
it's
we're going to put
movie
it on a
merch. Like, here's a key art that you've seen a million times put on another backpack
a
or
lunchbox,
yeah.
right? And so I find at conventions, my favorite booths are always the one where the person that is there created that thing, because however, it's structured on a business standpoint, they care about it, and there's a reason that they made that. And so I'm that's where I'm hoping to inhabit, is a fan who is also officially licensed, that is creating fan artwork that is officially approved.
It
And
is
it's
so
a lot
lovely that they said to
easier.
you, this is something that the fans have never seen before. That is that temperament that they had, when you approached them about the license. That's as Gandalf would say, that's a very encouraging thought.
Absolutely.
Very.
But it's also a little easier to promote your wares when you're not having to fly under the radar. So there is that benefit to being officially licensed, that you don't have to think, oh, I better not promote this here in case in case those folks see it. So
We
it's
have Roger David Dickinson in the live chat saying, "I remember going to Ian's booth when I went to New York Comic Con for my first time in 2019. Oh, that's way before the plague. It's a pleasure to see his amazing work up close, and I geeked out so hard when I saw his Rivendell pieces this year. Oh, that's very nice."
That's wonderful.
and
We
Justin,
love doing these shows, and especially going back to the same ones year after year. You build a family there, and it may be a family that you only see once a year. Sometimes that's enough for family. But you build these relationships, and so it's wonderful to have those people that know us from New York, from Atlanta, from these other shows, and come back year after year. And it's lovely to hear that they are, following the work, and such an encouragement that they appreciate where we're taking things.
and now you've started partying with us on the Friday night of New York Comic Con as well. That's an annual tradition as well now for you, so that's great. And it was really nice that kind of for the first time we got your wares over to the West Coast, to San Diego, this summer, and hopefully next year we'll get you over there as well as your wares for San Diego. It would be great.
Yes, I would love to join in on some West Coast festivities. I've not been able to get over there myself. Taking my whole booth is a lot, and so it's just too far for me to be able to go. But being able to join in on the community that the One Ring has built there really makes that so much easier. So thank you for that. Thanks for including me in that. It's one of the things I love about being a Middle Earth licensee is everybody I meet is fantastic. And that sounds, like fluff, but really it's a lot of people that love these stories. And we do have so much commonality that I've enjoyed everyone that I've met through it, and it's been wonderful to be able to collaborate on things with you and Asmodee and lots of other people that work in this space. It just feels like meeting friends.
Hey Justin, do we have in the chat, have you put in, I say you, a link so that people know where to go to find Ian's, after we've been tempting them with all these gorgeous images? Have we provided people with the info to find where they can go? There we go.
Yeah,
And
we've got
order.
I'll I'll put the link in the chat. Hopefully it shows up in Facebook and YouTube and everything like that. But this is
there it is.
Where to get the original. Man, you blew past your goal like nothing else. That's great. So that's the you saw this at Comic-Con. You've been seeing this all summer long, and now it's finally available. This Rivendell stained glass. I want to know, do people cut holes in their walls specifically for the dimensions of this? Like, because I don't have a window right now that is vertical like this. Like, what am I supposed to do here?
I'm not saying they haven't. I have not seen those photos. If you have, please show me. One of my favorite things of all time is seeing my art on display in people's houses and offices, however it is. It's lovely to see that people are enjoying that. It's bringing light and color into their decor. So that's one of my favorite things. So whatever you have of ours, please send photos. I've not seen people cut holes. I have done custom commission work that is based on dimensions of holes people already have in their walls. Usually there's windows in those, but not always.
So what do people normally do with the stained glass? I understand the peels,
Yeah.
the static peels just go on the glass, but if you get the actual stained glass piece, I mean, this is just sitting on a window frame right there. I guess people just kind of sit it on a window frame.
You can do that. When we ship them out, they have hangers. They come with chain, and the way that we have these displayed at home is a couple of little eye hooks that we screw into the frame of the window, and then it hangs from those, so you can kind of adjust how high you want it, where you want it to be. There's a lot of different ways to display things. That's the best way for smaller to middle-sized pieces like this. Again, custom made things, sometimes they'll be installed with carpentry to make them
right, like cutting a new window. And is it the intent of the artist here that this is viewed from the inside of the house, so you want it facing in and not out when you come home and you see it?
Yeah, going back to foundations of stained glass, where you saw them in cathedrals, you saw them in castles. Pretty much the person that paid for it wanted it to look best for them. So all of that is typically facing inward, but it is glass, and so it is illuminated from which side, by whichever side is lighter. So pieces in our windows during the day, they're bright inside because of the sun, and then at night they're illuminated outside because of the light inside. Kind of like when you drive by churches or museums and things at night. If they have their lights on, then they're beautiful on the outside to lure people in.
I don't know why I'm suddenly reminded of young Sherlock Holmes, because famously, if you're not talking about Bit, the little character in Tron in 1982, but if you're talking about the very first ever fully CGI animated character in motion
Yes.
picture history. It's that stained glass knight that jumps down in the cathedral and attacks that poor father. What a moment in cinema. And the reason why the animators, the CGI visual effects artists, were able to manage it is because of the nature of stained glass.
It's
That's how they
flat.
could manage it. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Essentially, it was
Exactly.
2.5D. I love that you referenced that movie, which I have a deep affinity for, and
Oh,
had that
good.
piece of esoteric trivia, which also is one of my favorite things. Also mentioning the original Tron, which that's a whole separate podcast. That's fine.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that moment definitely was striking to me watching that for the first time.
Yeah.
As to see again something that is thought of as fragile and stationary, come to life in such a dynamic way.
Come to life. And it still holds up today. A movie that age, and it still holds up, even though it was very rudimentary digital effects work at the time. I think it holds up great.
Why is
I'm
everybody in the
far too
What?
young to know that movie.
Yeah, I don't know the reference. Why is
Well,
everybody in the chat
I
room?
totally do. I
Oh my
totally
God.
do. But I'm
You
pretending
guys,
I don't.
you
Ian,
guys are
keep on.
so funny.
They're
That's so
telling me to
cute.
just buy a light box. Multiple people in the chat just said,
Yep.
just buy a light box.
I was
What?
going to say that, and also some of your pieces, Ian. I have the beautiful Hobbit hole doorway, which I love, and that you can hang, like, if you're a collector and you have your 6 scale or whatever scale figures, and you've got your glass cabinets with them in, you could hang those on like a Christmas ornament hanger or whatever, and put a little light behind, or so they don't have, things like that one, the Shards of Narsil. I love what's your new round one, that one. I absolutely love that. I will take the ring. I think I might have to purchase that one
Oh,
myself.
please let me see that. Let me see that up close. Oh
It's
my
so
goodness.
beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so
Oh, I
these
love
smaller ones
that. Look at
are
that.
these are about 5 to 10 inches on a dimension, and so those are made to be much easier to transport and move around, and offer that collectible sort of look. They come so that you can just put a suction cup and put it right on a window. And then for this campaign, we designed these new stands for them. So this is a prototype. We're still working through materials and finishing. We'll probably eventually have logos on that as well. But I did want a way that people could make this part of their collection on their shelf or desk or tabletop, that sort of thing as well.
Can I just
this
buy
would be
one
great,
of
like,
these with a light box from you? Can I? Do you offer the light box? Because I'm so
I do.
confused.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's that is part of the challenge of having a unique product is, when we sell a t-shirt, people know what a t-shirt is and how to use it. And so with stained glass, there's a little bit of education. So the original pieces like this will go right onto a window. There's a chain that you can see. They have a suction cup. You can get a stand like this. All of the window films we do just peel and stick right onto a window. And we do make light boxes for those also. So if you don't want to put it on a window, the light box has a little groove and it will just slide right into there. You can take it back out and trade designs too, and have sort of your own nightlight. They've got a little dimmer switch on them so you can set the amount of light you want.
Love it.
so
I
cool.
love the reference to the golden wood with it just being golden trees. It's so cute. I love it.
Seriously go broke looking at you, like, I'm just like, I want it all. It's all so beautiful. So
Yeah,
Thanks.
totally.
I worked with another friend who's an artist as we were, he helped me in some brainstorming sessions, and we chose this as, one of the original pieces for this because it was such a pivotal moment for me in the stories. To start with, Frodo was on an errand. He was going to go, and he was going to drop the ring, and he was going to go back home, and he was going to have tea, and then never think about it again. And it's this moment that he committed to doing this task. And he knew he didn't know what it was going to entail, but he knew it was going to be difficult, and that he was the one who could do it. And that was a change of his position and his mindset. And for me, it's inspirational to think that I don't have to know what it's going to take to do something. I just have to know that it's important and it's worth the effort. And so this was, kind of the culmination of that for me. And so I also wanted to show, to hint at the path ahead. So starting from Rivendell and the Lothlorien, and then Fangorn and the Anduin, and Mount Doom in the distance, that you can kind of see what's coming, even though Frodo can't.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant design that, as you say, and as Cliff pointed out, that the Golden Woods of Lorien, Fangorn, Anduin, all of that. It's brilliant. And I love the phrase. It feels to me like a philosophy for life. Like this piece, if I had it hanging up in my living room, it would feel more like a motto for my day-to-day life than necessarily something about Lord of the Rings. I just like the idea of every day getting up and saying, all right, I will take the ring, though I do not know the way.
Yes, indeed.
Amazing.
Exactly. And I think
there's people in the chat room that want Christmas ornaments, stained glass.
They're clamoring for Christmas ornaments now. Yes.
It is something that we're looking into, just about, because obviously they need to be much smaller. We're trying to figure out how to do that has enough
how do you do that?
detail to convey. Exactly. That's what we're trying to get to there. Because I would love to be able to offer that as well. I think it is another fun use of this, and another way that we use light as Christmas lights and things. So
listen, gents, it is such a pleasure. Justin and Cliff, it's always great to see you. And Ian, I always love when we get a chance to chat, either in person or over Zoom. But I'm going to have to peace out because I unfortunately have some other work that I need to do this evening. So,
yes.
But it has been great to chat and to once again be tempted by the precious offerings that you have. But I'm going to leave you guys to continue the conversation, and thanks everyone who's watching, and keep up the good work, Torn Tuesday, folks.
Thank you, Green Dragon.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kirsten. It's
Always
always
a
lovely to
pleasure.
have you here. Thank you, dear.
Thanks,
Thank you.
gents.
Well, I think we've covered everything, about the new Kickstarter, the new product, the Comic-Cons. We've actually got some news about Lord of the Rings. I don't know how much time you have, if you want to stick around and join us.
If you've got news, I want to hear it. Come on.
All right.
Let's hear the stuff.
I'm actually getting a message right now from New Zealand. One of my secret spies in Wellington is sending me, and it says in all capital letters, spy report. And I'm like, gasp, I'm live on the air, so I might as well tell the audience what's happening. Oh, well, I can't mention that part out loud.
Oh, geez.
Okay. It seems that Weta and their game studio, all right, not the entirety of Weta, but the separate subdivision, which is Weta Game Studio, has shut their doors. They've shut down last week. No more Weta Game Studio. Wild. All right, you've heard it here.
Like
exclusive.
Tales of the Shire?
Is that the same one? Is that the same one that made Tales of the Shire as Weta Game Studio? If that is true, then that might mean a seismic effect for people who are looking for expansions in that game or support for that game.
Weta Game Studio is responsible for Tales of the Shire, so I blame the fans for not showing up and buying that game. Then, come on, guys, what are you doing?
Wow!
Like we want to live and play in the Shire. Weta gave it to us, and you didn't buy it enough.
Yep. Unfortunately, Tales of the Shire underperformed, and now Weta Game Studio has been shuttered. That is a shame, because that was an exciting new endeavor for them. In addition to all the other fascinating things that they're doing down there. Wow. Okay.
That is huge breaking news.
Breaking news.
That's not good breaking news. Jeez.
No, it's not.
All right.
But we do. We get all kinds of breaking news here.
This just comes 2 weeks after Amazon shuttered their Lord of the Rings game studio.
Oh, you're right. They did.
I don't know if you heard about that, Ian. For the last 3 years, Amazon has spent $80 million on a Lord of the Rings MMO. and they closed the studio and canceled the game.
Yep.
I'm crushed. I wanted to play that many times as many different characters.
Yeah. Cliff, well, I've got some more Breaking
Okay.
Bad news from New Zealand.
Uh-oh.
Now, guys, you kept me around telling me that there was news. I didn't know you were going to break my heart.
I know.
Oh, I didn't realize it until I just opened up
Ah.
my direct messages. My secret spy is this little birdie who, you know, like the thrush that Bilbo talks to at Erebor. My little
it's
bird just
it's
arrived and gave me the news.
Sending us breaking news. Well, real quick, he wasn't involved in Lord of the Rings, but legendary New Zealand film director Lee Tamahori. He directed James Bond. He directed Once Were Warriors. He's worked with almost every actor in New Zealand, including many of your favorites from the Lord of the Rings. He passed away at the lovely old age of 75. A New Zealand legend is an understatement. He is right up there with Peter Jackson and everybody else that worked on so many movies. So so many actors.
Once Were Warriors is an amazing, amazing film, not to be overlooked. Once Were Warriors is an outstanding film.
All right,
And I'm
good
so
news.
sorry to hear of this.
Good news. Today we have a brand new book from Tolkien. That's right. On bookshelves and on Amazon today, you can get a brand new book from our friend Simon Tolkien. It's the third. It is the official re-release of No Man's Land that has been out of print for 10 years.
Wow!
It's an epic
Congratulations,
coming of
Simon.
age novel set in the UK around the time of World War II. So a lot of similar themes, maybe, to what his grandfather does. But the big good news is we are getting a ton of beautiful new photos of Jamie Campbell Bower on the red carpet for Stranger Things, which was the big premiere was last Thursday here in Los Angeles. They took over Hollywood Boulevard. The entire street was a long black carpet that we still don't know who he's playing in season 3 of Rings of Power. Cliff, what are the two biggest guesses that this man is playing in Rings of Power?
I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to let Ian immediately come in right after me and say what he thinks. But the conventional wisdom is that Jamie Campbell Bower is playing the missing husband to Galadriel, the man played by Martin Sokas in the original trilogy, Celeborn. And a lot of the conventional wisdom kind of leaning that way in fan conversation. However, there is still a contingent of fans who think that he might be playing the often talked about but never seen Glorfindel. Aha, yes, Glorfindel, the one who really, not Liv Tyler, but the one who really rescued Frodo and saved him after being stabbed at Weathertop and took him back to the ford of the Bruinen where they crossed the river. So it's got to be, I would say, 85% chance being Celeborn, so we can finish tying the knot of that red herring that they left us with since season 1.
Celeborn is dead in the show.
No, Celeborn is not dead in the show. The words red herring, ladies and gentlemen, it is a literary device.
Anyway, let's let
and
our
it is meant
guests
to
take a
fool
guess.
you.
Who would
Ian,
you
what do
like to
think?
see more on screen? Would you like to finally see Glorfindel in all of his grace, or Celeborn just so we can get Galadriel a husband?
I would love to see Glorfindel on screen. Like, it's such a dynamic character that obviously there's not room for everything, in adaptations, and things have to be combined and truncated and all that sort of thing. And we know how book to screen works, but I would love to see that. I don't know if that's going to happen. Who knows what's happening, but I think that would certainly be a very dynamic character to bring in.
Yes, I agree. I've always wanted to have Glorfindel in an adaptation.
So is Glorfindel
I've always wanted that.
more interesting than Celeborn as a character? I mean, you guys are the ones that read the books.
Well-
I don't know anything about this Glorfindel guy.
Well, Glorfindel is one of the most famous elves in all of history because he's the one who seems to be reincarnated. After having gone to the halls of Mandos, he's the one fellow, the one individual who seems to have been given another incarnation to come back and be involved in the affairs of Middle Earth. People in the chat want to introduce you to the concept of presumed dead. There's people in the chat who are trying to tell you, Justin.
I saw
the
Presumed
concept is
Innocent with Harrison Ford.
Celeborn is presumed dead.
No,
there's an-
according to
okay.
what Galadriel says in season 1, she
No,
says,
we
"Yes,
never found his body. She said he
says,
never showed up
"I've
again.
lost my brother and I've lost my husband," in the same
Okay,
breath,
okay.
in the same sentence. And so, if Celeborn
Okay,
isn't
no.
dead, then Finrod isn't dead either. So,
Ian, welcome to our weekly argument on Torn Tuesday. This is it. You're now in the middle of it. Ian, thoughts on Celeborn?
I vouch your knowledge here. I certainly have my own notions. You seem to have studied longer in the halls. I there's a character to be done there. I think so far on screen he has been a pretty person next to Galadriel who's more dynamic, and so like bringing something in that makes him into a three-dimensional character instead of a 2D cutout could also be very compelling, because obviously that's a great character there that we're just not getting a rounded view of. So bringing him into a situation certainly is going to play off of other characters. We'll see more dimension there. So, whichever way it goes, we'll get something that is interesting. But yeah, I think so far he's been, kind of scenery.
that's fair. Well, you guys can
Yeah.
see Jamie Campbell Bower in Stranger Things, the final season. First new episode comes out next week, I think. And then the second episode comes out at Christmas. And then the final episode is like New Year's Eve. And of course, he plays, if the main character of Stranger Things is 11, the girl, he is number 1. That's literally his name. It's also called Vecna, but he is number 1. She is number 11, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings. All right, other big news: Rings of Power had a wrap party this weekend. Cliff, wouldn't you believe this? Let me bring up, and people were posting photos on the Instagram. Armory Crew. We're taking some photos at the party on Amazon's dime and posting all the wonderful photos. We've got
how fun!
But I want to focus in on this, guys. This is Durin, Owain Arthur.
That's
those,
Prince Durin. Yes, Prince Durin. Yes,
and those are his 2 children in the show.
Oh, I see. Very good. That means that instead of them just being little kids running around in the background, they're actually a little bit older now. There has been time that has passed. Like they warned us, season 3 will jump forward chronologically in time.
That's right. So this is Durin and his children. That's the age. Cliff, I guess the question for both of you: do you think by casting some teenagers and Durin's children, do you think they're going to have a significant role in season 3? Do you think Durin's children have a big role to play in the story unfolding?
Possibly, yes, but maybe not as big a role as this missing brother. At the end of season 2, they talked about unrest in the Dwarven Kingdom of Khazad-dûm because the claim to the throne is not as clear as it should have been.
So
it's not just point A to point B.
So do you think the son or daughter right there makes a claim for the throne?
I expect familial complications to get to a whole new level in season 3. I really do. However, I also anticipate at some point that they'll install the doors of Durin, the ones that were carved by Narvi and Celebrimbor. May he rest in peace. But remember, those doors were shown, but they were never installed in the side of the mountain. So I expect to see that in season 3 as well.
That's a big payoff, I think, for a lot of fans.
Yeah.
So I'd be stunned to not see that at some point. Also, I really want to see this new artifact, the glasses there. I think that needs to come in at some point. That he's wearing in
Absolutely.
this photo.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping that becomes
Oh.
part of the dwarven
Look at-
regalia.
This
Look
is
at the-
a powerful
look at the-
dwarven artifact, these
Yeah,
heart-shaped
absolutely,
glasses.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and that jewelry. Look at the drip that she's got going on her ears, like amazing.
Jewelry. Sparkling.
Another participant, and here's some more photos from the after party for Rings of Power. This all looks like cast and crew. This all looks like crew actually. So the Durham
What
picture is
fun.
the only picture that we have from the cast. So congrats on season 3 of Rings of Power wrapping. What happens now, Cliff?
There's whispers of a delay. Have you heard them? Have you heard
No.
the whispers in the wind?
No.
That the release of this season will be significantly delayed. I've been hearing this rumor, and I wonder how much veracity there is to it. It gives Warner Brothers a chance to beat them to the punch, because next spring they're going into principal photography on the hunt for Gollum. And now I do wonder whether Andy Serkis is going to get his feature film completed before Prime Video gets their 3rd season on streaming. I do wonder who's going to get to the finish line.
So do you think that Rings of Power will not get its typical release date on it's DragonCon weekend usually, isn't it, Ian? You're usually at DragonCon when Rings of Power comes out.
Yes, I don't get to see it because I'm in the throes of convention, and it is my treat afterward. But let's talk about what a time we live in when we're debating which Middle Earth property is going to be on the screen first.
Yeah. Isn't
That's
it
incredible.
crazy?
Yes.
Yeah, we're getting an embarrassment of riches, and after 10 long years in between the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogy, where there was nothing. In fact, we didn't have as many volunteers at the OneRing.net. We didn't have as much material. We had no news to report on, and things got really, really quiet. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, 10 years later, when the Hobbit got kicked up, they said, 'Are you guys still here?'" And yes, we are very much.
And we've got one more photo. But before I show this, I want to ask Ian, as far as you know, because I don't know anything, I haven't read the books, what are the 2 factions in Numenor?
Oh God, you're gonna put me on the spot.
Well, no, this is good. If you don't know that,
Yeah.
that means the show has a clean slate to impress us with whatever storyline that they're putting together.
Well, the people on one upper northern western corner of the island are faithful to the Valar, and that includes Elendil, his family, and a lot of friends who are faithful to the Valar and observing their ways and spirituality. And then there's the rest of the Numenorians who are not faithful, and they will end up being called the King's Men eventually. And that will be at a point where their leader, Pharazôn, imbues them with a sense of self-righteousness and entitlement for an immortality that they were never meant to have. And then it becomes a bigger split.
This is where I always get confused, because I keep hearing Kingsmen versus the faithful, but then I always hear King Elendil and King Isildur. So I'm like, okay, King's men. Elendil's men are the King's men.
Well, no,
but you're telling me it's opposite?
The titles of king or any royalty assigned to Elendil or Isildur and Anarion, that happened well after the destruction of Numenor. Way after. When they were when they were trying to struggle to survive after the destruction of the island continent and make a new life for themselves on the mainland of Middle Earth.
Okay, so Kingsmen,
that happened much later.
When it comes to the Second Age, Rings of Power, and Numenor Island, the Kingsmen are the bad guys and the faithful are the good guys.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Well, because the show has wrapped, some of the background actors have been posting out of turn. And we've got
breaking
this
their NDAs. Oh my
we've got
goodness
this
gracious.
wonderful photo of one
That's
of the
how you get the
background
studio
extras.
mad at you. That's how you get the studio really mad.
He's got a very simple boot, and he's in the ruins of a Welsh castle. Cliff, I remember we reported that they shot at old ruins of a Welsh castle. Well, check this
Yeah.
out. Here's a better photo. This, folks, is your first look at the official attire of the King's Men, a faction of people that we have not yet met.
Wow.
They will be introduced in season 3. The King's Men report to Elendil, and they are the good guys. They are the ones that want to reclaim Numenor before it gets too hedonistic, and we all know who wins that battle. So
This guy's giving me a Dev Patel vibes. He's definitely giving me that Dev Patel kind of look, which I really dig. I really dig that.
So this is a sneak preview. Ian, you're the first one to see this. This is what the King's Men, or no, this is what the faithful look like in their attire. And he's got his sword on his belt, so obviously he's preparing for something, for battle. So do we like what we see? Is it less ornate than you expected out of Numenor? I mean, I thought Numenor was the height of men, right? Like the pinnacle of man was Numenor.
Well, if you're an evil bastard like Pharazôn and you're taking over, control of the island and not letting the other people operate with the freedom to practice their faith towards the Valar as they wish, you're kind of like a utilitarian ruler, and maybe their approach to armor and weapons and soldiery is also equally utilitarian. A lot less guilt and gold and glamour, and just a bit more functional, because they just want to get the job done and oppress those poor faithful Numenorians, right? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know the story.
Ian is giggling. He doesn't know what to say now.
Oh, I mean, this is why I came here. I had to talk about stained glass for an hour just to, see this photo.
So, all right. So the King's Men, which are Pharazôn's men, which are the ones that get very hedonistic and start following Sauron and start building churches to Sauron, are the bad guys, but they go more ornate. They have gold on their armor, and the faithful. I'm now reminded of Game of Thrones, Jonathan Pryce. Remember when Jonathan Pryce, the faithful, shows up in Game of Thrones and he doesn't wear anything. He's just in the simplest of cloth.
Yeah, and he played the Sparrow. What was he called? Yeah.
So,
What
but
was he called?
he was a
Blind
man
Sparrow?
he was a man of faith, right? Like, so
Yeah.
So I guess it does make sense that Elendil's faithful would be dressed more simple than ornate height of society that Numenorians were known for.
I don't know. Maybe it's true, Laswen. So much of the money goes to Pharazôn's crazy rich fabrics that there's none left for his soldiers. Maybe the soldiers are meant to be not as gilded and glamorous as Pharazôn himself. Maybe.
Well, so those are the scoops we got this week. Your first
the High
pick,
Sparrow, yeah.
High Sparrow. The first picks of what Elendil's faithful men will be wearing. We got pics of Owain's Durin's kids at the after party, and next thing the show goes, they do editing. They do assembly edits. They'll piece together all the footage they've been shooting all year long into the 8 episodes, and then they submit the 8 episodes to the studio, and the studio kind of approves the edit and says, "Cool, let's finish with the effects," or the new studio boss, because Amazon fired their entire executive team and brought in executives from Netflix. The new boss might look at what the footage shows and be
Right.
like, "We need to reshoot this."
Mm.
So we don't know where it's headed now, but I predict there might be reshoots in the spring. I don't know,
Might be. Yeah.
because there's a new head of the studio at Prime Studios, and uh, a new boss means new visions for this. So my whole thing is, Amazon, take your time. It's better to have a great show that comes out late than a substandard show that comes out on time.
That had
And
been rushed.
yeah,
Yes.
and yeah,
Yes.
we talked a little bit about this theory earlier in the show, Ian, where true art is never complete. You got to put in the work, and create the best creativity happens at the weirdest moments. And timelines. Come on, great art doesn't
Well,
need a timeline.
and it seems wise that they have suggested that it may be a while before these are released to kind of build in, a little bit of time for whatever it may take to get it, over the finish line there. You hate to give a deadline and then miss that. So it's always nice to have a little buffer creatively.
True. Yeah, very much so. But it also gives Andy Serkis and his team a chance to race ahead to the finish line as they work on their feature film, The Hunt for Gollum. So I'm very intrigued by all of this. Yeah, this is fascinating. And wow, okay, that was breaking news and instant messages that I just got from New Zealand right now during the chat. That was wild. I am sorry to see that Weta's game studio is gone.
Oh,
I'm really sorry to hear that.
And Amazon's game studio is gone. It's a lot of talented people are now
Yes.
looking for work, but some of the best Lord of the Rings creative people around. Anyway, I don't want to end the show on that note. I want to end on the wonderful, wonderful stained glass that you've been doing. Again, the Kickstarter is live right now. There's 9 days to go. You've already had 150 backers, and
Yeah.
I saw it up close in person, and Cliff can vouch for this, Ian. At Comic-Con in San Diego, you know how many people went to the Middle Earth booth, saw your windows, and came to our booth saying, "I want to buy that." Like, more than that. A lot more than that. There are 200,000 people at Comic-Con. And so people would go to this booth, see this amazing window on display, and then say, "I want to buy that right now." The full package, not the cling, the full stained glass package. And we said, "Not yet, later this year." So I'm so happy that it's finally out.
And
thanks. I am too. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, look at how far you've come. You've got already 36,000 out of 10,000. You're hitting up 4 times more than what your goal was. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Thank you. It's amazing to see the interest from the community, especially I feel like so much a part of that. It was incredible to have that on display at the Middle Earth booth. It was a surprise, and so we were not even ready, with all of our products yet. And so thank you for the fans for giving us some time to get that developed and giving us, the time to get it right. And so I'm thrilled to have been able to release that, to have had a little bit, of grace in that, especially in the middle of our convention season, which is pretty fraught already.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful to have been working on that for 9 months now. This collection of artwork, and so to finally be able to release that and give everyone the chance to bring some of this into their homes.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate
Absolutely.
you staying up and chatting with us and the fans. And again, folks, you can find them on Kickstarter. You can find geekorthodox.com is the main website. Lord of the Rings is just one of many collections that's on there, and you'll want every single one of them I promise it's the talent there is amazing, and I'm so happy that Ian was here to answer a lot of your questions from the chat. That just thank you so much for making the time to chat with us today.
Absolutely, it was wonderful to talk with you guys. It's great to get some questions from the community. It's great to be able to answer some of those things. People are curious about working with Middle Earth, about the weird way that stained glass happens. So I'm glad to be able to pass on a little of what I've learned.
Yeah,
That's really
awesome.
Yeah, it's really awesome to have you share that kind of enthusiasm here with us, and really appreciate you being here, Ian. It's great, really great, and many blessings to you, and many great things yet to come, good sir. And good. It's really great to have you here in the family. Ladies and gentlemen, look up Geek Orthodox. They've got the best stuff. And you can also find their Kickstarter. It is still active for what? 9 more days, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. I see
really cool.
I see some chat comments about some recent leaks from other folks, including a beardless dwarf. We're gonna get into that next week. There's a lot of gossip going on in the fan community that we didn't have time to touch on today. So we're gonna cover that next week, because I have opinions. Cliff, you definitely have opinions on what you're hearing.
Oh goodness. Oh,
I can tell
goodness.
opinions are in deep supply.
Yes, it's more than we need.
There are
Yes.
storehouses of opinions here.
All right,
So
take us
good.
out, Cliff.
It's been such a great show. I want to acknowledge everybody in the live chat. There's so many people who come and join us and make this whole thing organically happen. Wouldn't be a live stream of any importance or any impact if it weren't for you. So thank you, all of you wonderful people who come to join us from all different quadrants around the interwebs. So thank you, an acknowledgement to our faithful audience who's been with us at theonering.net since 1999, 2000, since it all started in the way back when machine. Justin, thank you for being the little man behind the green emerald curtain, and Ian, it's just great stuff. Been a real distinct pleasure. Enjoy the rarefied air of where you are right now, Ian, and all the wonderful things you're making. You are bringing light and joy to many people, and you reflect upon that, good sir, because it's a good thing. It's a very good thing
Thank
what you're
you.
doing, and I just want to acknowledge you. It's really good stuff. You guys in the live chat, you guys look us up. You can find us on all social media, theonering.net. Just take out the dot. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch and Twitter. And if you're in our Discord, it's the best Discord in the world. Join us on our Discord. We have the mods there, taking care of everything, making it a very friendly, agreeable, and without being too redundant, a really welcoming place for everyone to talk about their ideas and debate the world and the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. And that's it for me, Clifford Broadway. You can find me as QuickBeam2000 on Blue Sky and Instagram. And there's a lot more mischief that we can get into. Next week, there'll be much more to report and analyze gossip, news, information, all the news that's fit to print right here on Torn Tuesday next week, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Until then, please do take care of yourselves. Look out for one another, okay? And we'll see you soon. Good night and good luck. Or as I love to say, buenos noches y buena suerte. Bye-bye, everybody.